Hey guys, Dr. Tooterp here, and today I'm here with state-of-the-art technology to simulate the current global pandemic known as the coronavirus. A lot of things are up in the air right now because of the coronavirus, and things are being forced to change, well, except for the people pretending the coronavirus isn't real. But the majority of the world right now is concerned about the coronavirus and worried about what the future holds. So today, I've brought simulating technology to simulate the coronavirus. By the way, this is a Plague Inc. review, you know, the game on Steam. I'm just using the coronavirus to help with the pacing of the video and because, well, you know, it's on everybody's minds right now. So if you're scared of hearing the word coronavirus a bunch of times, well then feel free to click away from- Wait a minute, why'd you click on this video in the first place? So the simulation technology we're going to be using in this video is called Plague Inc. This software comes with tons of options to simulate pretty much any kind of disease you want, even ones that don't exist, that we know of. You got virus, bacteria, prion, monkey, and even zombies in case you want to simulate next month's apocalypse. And today we're going to be simulating a lot of different scenarios, but because the current pandemic is a virus, let's just start there for now. After you pick the type of disease you want to eradicate the earth, you get to edit the genes of the virus to improve how well it works in different ways. I don't have all of them unlocked because, but that doesn't matter, let's just skip to this part. After that, you get to choose the starting country. In this game, this matters a lot because all the countries have several traits that change how the virus will spread. For example, some countries are cold, some are hot, some are wet, some are dry, some are densely populated, some aren't, etc. Obviously, depending on the disease, this will affect how it spreads throughout the country you pick and throughout the world in general. There's also a risk to being caught early before it spreads that much, because once you get discovered, the country that discovers the virus begins working on a cure. The cure is pretty much a time limit for you to eradicate the world, because once the cure is complete, everyone gets healed around the world. Immediately. Somehow. The cure also speeds up depending on how severe the disease is and how far it's spread. The cure speed also depends on how wealthy the country curing it is, which reminds me how much attention to detail this game has. Simulation has. Obviously, you have to have an attention to detail to make something like this and still have it be fun, but I think they did a really good job going the extra mile and making sure the game not only has really good attention to detail, but is also fun and not overwhelming you with information or anything. Anyway, guys, now it's time to get into the actual simulation for the coronavirus. You know the coronavirus isn't real, right? It's literally just a bunch of government propaganda. Anyway, once you choose a starting country, one random person in said country gets infected with the virus. From this point on, you have a lot of options and you start to build up DNA points from both waiting and popping these red bubbles on screen. DNA points can be used for a lot of things in the game. A simulation tool, like choosing what symptoms your disease has, or making it more resistant to cure progress, or even upgrading the way it spreads around. The main goal of the game is to use your DNA points in an efficient manner, upgrading the virus's contagiousness, environmental resistance, and cure resistance before a cure is developed. There are a lot of other factors involved though. For example, you're going to want to plan out how you want your disease to spread and to which countries it spreads to. So we started in China, and China is pretty cold, so we're going to want to have cold resistance for this one. But cold resistance is also good because it makes the disease spread all around the area and all the way up to Russia. As the virus spreads more, you're going to want to either make it more resistant to air disinfectants or water disinfectants to make the virus spread through boats and planes. This is really important because you can only spread so much on one continent, and the more your virus spreads around the globe through boats and planes, the more countries there are sending out infected boats and planes in the first place. But again, you don't want to spread the virus too fast, because if you do, not only will the cure progress be sped up, but countries will start closing down all of their airports and harbors to stop external travel, meaning any country that does this that doesn't have an infected civilian already is safe from the virus and you completely lost. A common problem is Greenland and Iceland closing before you get there, because not only is it really cold, but there's also only one harbor, and you gotta be pretty lucky to get an infected boat into those countries, and sometimes it's literally just down to luck. But anyway, as you can see, the coronavirus is spreading around nicely just as planned, which means it's time to crank up the symptoms. Obviously, the coronavirus has coughing, sneezing, pneumonia, I guess. What else? Sudden heart failure. It's really cool how the different combinations of symptoms and resistances affect your game differently every time, and it really adds a lot of replay value to the game. Engine. Anyway, enough talking about the boring details of this highly scientific disease simulator. It's time to talk about today's video sponsor, which is soap. Please, for the love of God, wash your hands with soap. Whenever you're worried about coronavirus or going to an anime convention, soap is not your enemy, I promise you. Just kidding, this video is actually sponsored by my Twitter, please go check it out. So with the majority of the world infected with the coronavirus, it's looking like there's going to be no cure, so I'm going to do the liberty of adding a ridiculous amount of insane symptoms. Because not only is that entertaining, but we can't be too sure this won't happen with the coronavirus, guys. So projectile vomiting, insanity, explosive diarrhea, these guys aren't having any fun trying to get the cure going, and they're all dead. Thankfully, everyone was infected before they all die, because sometimes you could actually kill everyone on accident before everyone is infecting and you end up losing. Luckily, necrosis ends up stopping all of that, but we didn't need it here apparently. So it looks like the coronavirus is just going to wipe out humanity in the coming weeks, and with the way a certain country is handling things right now, that's probably not too far from the truth. But now that we've done simulated the coronavirus, it's time to just play around with the simulator, because What else are we gonna do? So like I said earlier, there are a lot of options when it comes to picking the disease you want to use, and there are a lot of options we could look at, like fungus, sentient parasite, worm. Well, wait, actually, let's look at that one. So this disease is actually really cool because you get to control a colony of parasitic worms that infect people's brains and eventually control their actions. You still have symptoms and abilities, but there are a lot more that are unique to the virus now. For example, my favorite ability is being able to control one of the infected civilians and make them fly into any country you want. Yeah, thank God we don't gotta worry about this anymore. Really, the only problem is this one is kinda too easy just because of the amount of things you can do, but this one is one of my favorite disease types to play casually. I don't know why, but the idea of being behind a parasitic worm colony controlling humanity's brains just seems kinda cool. Not like that would ever happen in real life or anything. Another disease type that's really interesting to me is literal vampires. So the way this works is you actually get to control a really powerful vampire that needs to eat civilians to stay alive. You can upgrade your strength for when the world's military inevitably fights back, and you can even make your vampire have a disease that spreads as he feasts upon civilians. This mode as a whole is really cool because it's honestly like a completely different game other than the viruses. You have a literal character you control moving around the world and going wherever you want. You can also set up bases and point farms around the map too that get attacked by the military once you're well known enough. This game mode is pretty hard, especially on Mega Brutal, but it's definitely more fun than hard, and with modes like the parasitic worm thing, it's not like you have to play a hard virus type, especially when you first start. I really enjoy the aspect of building up strength and fighting the military too. Instead of just focusing on infections and deaths, you have to pay attention to your health bar as you try to spread the virus around the map, because if your vampire dies, you just lose. I don't even think it matters if people are infected, you just lose. You could also get another vampire friend to control around the map, which is pretty cool too. Also, another funny thing I forgot to mention earlier, I really like the news headlines and stuff that pop up in the game. They're more apparent in the vampire game mode, but they pop up in every single type of game you play, and they're usually pretty funny. Speaking of pretty funny, there's actually another game mode for zombie apocalypse. Wait, that isn't funny. Well, you can't really have a disease simulator without a zombie apocalypse though, can you? So I guess we should go check it out. The zombie game mode works uniquely also, and you have to spread a regular disease to start off with, but then eventually one of the symptoms you unlock turns everyone who dies of the virus into zombies. Eventually your hordes of zombies get so massive the military gets involved, just like in every zombie apocalypse movie, so we could assume the simulation is 100% accurate based on that. At that point, you need to upgrade the zombie strength so they can explode themselves, make zombie dogs, and just take over the world military. The zombie game mode is hard too, but I like this one a lot. It's also surprisingly fun, just like the vampire one. So with all the disease types ranging from viruses to bacteria to vampires and zombies, the obvious next conclusion to this list is the monkey disease. So basically I'm monkey if I get infected with this disease, because the monkey virus is also a unique game mode where it starts out in a research lab on monkeys testing some new genetically modifying stuff out on them. Well, little do the doctors know, they're just lines of code in a game called Plague Inc., and they're doomed from the start of the experiment. Initially, the monkey virus only spreads between monkeys of the world, and these monkeys can become super intelligent through upgrades and basically end up making their own self-sustaining civilization. But eventually, once you're ready, you can make the disease go through zoonosis like the coronavirus and transfer from animals to humans. By doing this, you can even make the virus affect humans differently than monkeys, and you're supposed to make the monkeys super smart and the humans super dumb and impaired by the virus's symptoms. Eventually, if all goes according to the Great Monkey Plan, humanity is eradicated and replaced by monkeys. But monkeys are smart, so like, isn't that just coming full circle? Other than the main virus simulation modes on this game, there are also a lot of extra game modes called scenarios that can bring you hours and hours of fun. I'm not going to talk about them all because there's just so many of them, but one of my favorites are the Game Maker one, the Fake News one, and some of the other real life viruses that happen like the swine flu or the plague. These scenarios work like separate virus game modes with their own mechanics and features, and some like the Game Maker and Fake News one are pretty much completely different. Like in the Game Maker one, instead of infecting people with a deadly virus, you try to sell your game to everyone in the world. And in the Fake News one, your goal is to convince the world of some fake news story you've made up, and there's actually a lot of different combinations you could do for tons of replayability just in this one scenario alone. The realistic ones like the two famous viruses I named earlier are just like the regular virus modes except specifically modified to be as accurate as possible to how they happen in real life, and this goes from what country they start in to even the symptoms you're allowed to use. With all the scenarios in the game and all the virus modes, there's undeniably enough replay value to keep you satisfied with this game pretty much for as long as you need. And the different difficulty and rating systems help add challenge and incentive to play some of the game modes you've already beaten but in a harder mode. Other than everything I've already said in this entire video, I can't exactly explain why I like this game so much, but it's really enjoyable to play and almost never gets boring. It's kinda hard to explain, so if you haven't played it for yourself, let me just say it's a lot like the Civilization games or even Minecraft, since it's so easy to play and lose hours without realizing it. Yeah, so even though it looks like the coronavirus is going to eradicate humanity, maybe that's not so bad since we have fun games like this to play in the meantime. Well, fun games like this for the monkeys to play at least.